Harris, what has Armando or RJ Kujian about this particular game against this team?
Yeah, I mean, they've just been telling me how there's nothing they can really tell me to prepare me for the energy the crowd's going to bring, energy that I'm going to feel from the fans and from the other team, and just to be ready.
Did you grow up watching? Do you have any memories of the rivalry?
I mean, obviously I grew up watching basketball, so every Duke UNC game I watched that. But actually, the only visit I took in high school to UNC was to the Duke UNC game. I was the one where I think Trey Jones hit a buzzer beater, or Wendell Moore hit a buzzer beater, or something like that to win. They both hit a buzzer beater to win the game, and I was here for that one.
The weird uniform game.
It was the overtime and then the game winner, right?
Yeah.
Harrison, what was the big rivalry at Stanford, and why was it that way?
What was the rivalry for Stanford?
What was the game, and why was it a rivalry like that?
It was Stanford versus Cal, and it was just a rivalry. I'm not quite sure the history behind it, but I just know they're close to each other, so I think they just hate each other, something like that.
Was that pretty intense? I know football's got more notoriety. They had the band game and all that other stuff, but basketball, was it pretty intense?
It actually was. I mean, the fan turnout obviously wasn't as big there as it is at UNC, but for the Cal game, it was always packed, whether it was at Stanford or at Cal, definitely packed, but I don't think any game, any sport could match the UNC Duke game.
What has been imparted on you this week about what to expect and what it's like?
I mean, it's the energy from the coaches, from our director of basketball operations, Hoots. Every time he sees me, he tells me, I better be ready to be a grown man, and the fans, the stuff they're going to say to me and stuff I've never heard. I'm like, all right, that's cool. But, it's the energy that everyone has going into this game. I mean, we're ready.
Harrison, because you did come here and did consider coming here out of high school, when Duke and UNC played in the Final Four a couple years ago, were you pulling for the Tar Heels there? Did you have a rooting interest? It was such an epic game. How did you view that one?
I mean, I didn't really have a fan. I mean, growing up, I was neutral. I was more of a Texas fan and more pro sports fan than college. So watching the Duke UNC game in the Final Four, I didn't really have a team I wanted to win. I kind of just wanted to see a good game, and in the Final Four, they gave us a good game.
So when you were deliberating your decision after entering the portal, did the opportunity to play in this game and be on this unique stage have anything to do with your decision making?
Not necessarily this exact game, but the stage of being at UNC. I mean, playing on ESPN almost every night. Obviously, the Duke game is a big game, but it kind of being at UNC, every game is a big game every night. Kind of getting everybody's best shot. But knowing I'm playing this UNC Duke game on national television, it's one of the biggest games of the year every year. I mean, I just can't be beat.
Well, staying on that, kind of curious because all the games you guys have played on the road, except Pitt, I think, were full. They were all sellouts, and Pitt was close to being a sellout. How different is that experience being on the road wearing this uniform as opposed to what you experienced on the road at Stanford?
I mean, it's amazing. I mean, it can't be beat. I mean, the fans go out there. I mean, you're there an hour before a game. It's almost fully packed. A lot of UNC fans are there. I mean, every game I've been to, especially at Boston College, we got there an hour and a half before the game we're shooting, and there's probably 300 UNC fans in there just cheering our names, all there for 90 minutes before a game, and just seeing the commitment from the fans to travel and to show love. It's amazing.
Harrison, I'm sure you're familiar with the game-changing moments for players that happen in this rivalry game. What's an area of your game right now that you feel like can contribute to a special moment on Saturday for your game?
I feel like the special thing about my game is that I'm not quite sure which one it will be. Kind of just whatever the game calls for. If I have to rebound, I rebound. If I have to knock down threes, play defense. I mean, whatever the game calls for, I feel like I'll show up.
You've talked about your sister. Has the trash talk between you two increased at all this week?
It began last week. Actually, it began last night when she was making fun of me for losing our first game in a while. No, she didn't. I wasn't happy, but she thought it was hilarious. And, she's gonna be in here. She'll be wearing a Carolina shirt though. She'll be cheering for us, and that'll be nice.
Harrison, I wanted to ask you about defense. You guys are ranked, I think, 4th in KenPom defensive efficiency. One thing specifically I wanted to ask you about was 3-point defense. You guys are holding teams about, I think it's 29%, 30%. What are you guys doing well to maybe run teams off the arc or contest shots? Because that's always a tricky thing, trying to cover so much ground on the perimeter.
I feel like it's how hard we play. I feel like when you play hard, you can make up for your mistakes, whether it's a missed coverage, missed assignment, or anything like that. When you play hard, you make up for your mistakes. And I feel like we got the shooters, and we also protect the paint. I feel like that kind of lacked in our last game against Georgia Tech. We weren't playing as hard, so the little mistakes we would make, we weren't making up for them.
How much of it is just trying to get them to, is it as simple as get a hand up and contest? Is it trying to run them off the shot? What, in your estimation, is like the biggest thing to accomplish in those situations, in those moments, trying to defend a three?
I think the biggest thing is knowing personnel and kind of being able to realize who you're closing out to, if it's a shooter, if it's a non-shooter, maybe the shooter close out short with energy, but always having a high hand, because these are dealing with basketball players, and whether they are considered a shooter, quote unquote, or not a shooter, they can make open shots.
Harrison, you mentioned obviously, having your first loss in a while. I guess kind of with that, how much have you kind of observed that, kind of fueling some of the energy going into Saturday? It's going to be a rivalry, going to be kind of an emotional type game.
I mean, obviously it sucks to lose. No one wants to lose, but I feel like we kind of put the chip back on our shoulder and give us a more of a bigger chip to just come in today, have a great practice, go hard. I mean, I know coaches are going to be amped up energy. It's going to be a really intense competitive practice. And it's coming into this game just knowing that we lost our previous game, but we don't want to lose 2 in a row.
And then obviously kind of going off that, I know a lot of, during this season you guys are very, game by game, opponent by opponent. But I guess in this week in particular, like, have you noticed any type of, you mentioned, some with the energy, but I guess in some of the dialogue you've had with guys, like, have you kind of noticed some differences there?
Not quite. I mean, I definitely noticed how energetic everybody is. I mean, everybody's going to sleep early, getting their 8 hours, 9 hours, getting up, getting their shots up. I mean, we had 2 lifts today, one at 8 a.m. A lot of guys show up to 8 a.m. lift just to kind of just show that they're locked in.
Harrison, this is the 3rd year in a row that both Duke and UNC have gotten transfer from the same school. Are you and Neil friends? I mean, do you chat? Have you chatted at all this week?
Yes, sir. Me, Neil, and I think they call it GA.
Yeah.
Daniel Begovic were also pretty cool. Us 3 and Cormac, we all know each other.
Yeah. So, I mean, have you guys talked at all this week? Like, have you stayed in touch throughout the course of the season? That cuts off now, or?
We cut off last week. I mean, they texted us. They asked us to get Daniel and Neil asked us to get dinner. We were gonna get dinner, but it just didn't work out. Just kind of from then on, we're like, next 2 weeks we can't talk. I mean, we're not cool. Like, if I see him on the court, I'll say hi after the game, but before the game, I don't know.
Was Georgia Tech more the product of maybe fatigue from playing a couple of road games in a row, maybe complacency, or was there some other factors that kind of contributed to that?
I'm not sure exactly what it was, but I do know we didn't come with the same energy that we came with every other game. We weren't putting the chip on our shoulder. I feel like we were up early, and that's when we got complacent, kind of thinking, we went up 11 in the first 10 minutes. We thought it was gonna be an easy game, and those are good. Those are good teams, good basketball players. I mean, they fought and they earned the win.
What are the challenges for you defensively, whether it be Filipowski or Mitchell? What are the challenges that they'll give you?
I mean, this Duke as a team they're all a bunch of talented players, and as a team, they're pretty hard to guard. So whether I'm guarding Mitchell or on the perimeter guarding the guards or guarding Filipowski, just having a scouting report and realizing that they're all good players. And then sometimes, like with good players, you might play great defense and just make the shot.
In what ways have you seen Elliot grow up in the past couple of weeks, especially with his scoring and maybe being more aggressive and perhaps being more comfortable? But what have you seen in terms of his development?
Definitely his aggression and his confidence. I mean, we see what he can do in practice every day, especially whenever we were in the preseason. He would be on the other team with me. I mean, he would knock down threes, he would come off screens, throw the craziest passes you've ever seen, finish every layup, and just seeing him kind of translate what he does in practice every single day and watching him do it on the court is amazing. And it opens up everything for our team, just knowing we have a guy who can get to the paint at will, and there's nobody who can stop him getting in the paint. Just letting me get wide open 7 threes, tipping layups, just putbacks and little easy shots like that.
And you've at least been around college basketball for a while, but what do you think it's going to be like for him on Saturday, like his first taste of this stage?
See, I don't even know how it's going to be for me, so I couldn't really speak for him.
But you've been around at least the sport for a while. Like, what do you
Right.
think it's going to be like for someone who's just totally new?
Right, I think it's definitely going to be an adjustment to seeing the fans' energy for me and him, but for him personally, kind of having a big game. I mean, we've been at UNC, we have a lot of games at ESPN, a lot of national televised games. I mean, we played a lot of really, really good teams early, so it's not too big of an adjustment.
Harrison, we've talked about the rebounding a lot, obviously, but when you were going through the transfer process and you were studying places you might consider and you got into studying UNC, could you have ever imagined that here in February you'd be leading the ACC in rebounding? Would that have shocked you if someone had told you that back then?
Not shocked me. It's actually one of the main topics that me and Coach Davis talked about when he came to my house. Offensive rebounding, I knew, especially in high school, I was pretty good offensive rebounder, and at Stanford I was pretty good offensive rebounder there too. It wasn't as good as I was here, but I knew it was a big thing, and I kind of wanted to know that if I came here, would I have the opportunity and the ability to crash offensive boards, and he was like, yes, 100%. I mean, worked out perfectly.
A couple of weeks ago, when Armando was asked about your rebounding, he said that he should take some of the credit because he's sort of occupying enough people. It's giving you more opportunities to get some of his rebounds. He kind of likened it to a nose tackle using up 2 blockers so a linebacker can make a play. How has he helped you in that rebounding process, and how much truth is there to what he was saying?
100% there's truth. Armando's Armando, the best rebounder in Carolina history. I mean, especially on the offensive end, there's always have so much attention to him, trying to box him out and let him get the rebound. I come flying in and I'm just getting tip-ins and kind of keeping the ball alive. And then on the defensive end, he's blocking out the big 7-footers who can jump out the gym, and I'm coming in to clean up the rebounds. And really for him to give him another shout out, he's doing so much for us offensively that doesn't really show up on the stat sheet. And we're getting so many layups, literally just wide open, practice layups because he's stealing the big man and just causing so much attention.
I was going to ask you about that because the stat sheet numbers have been down with him. But Hubert was saying last week, there's so many other things he's doing that don't show up there. That he's doing at a much higher level than he had previously before. Aside from what you just said, what are some of those other things?
I think he's being a great leader, keeping everybody accountable every day in practice. I mean, even before the Georgia Tech game, he was talking about how this can't be a game we got complacent. I mean, we still did lose, but he was talking about how he knows what it's like to have a quote-unquote trap game and kind of be complacent before the game. And, he's just doing a lot of stuff for the win. I mean, we're winning games, and I feel like he's a big part of it.
Has he shown any concern at all about his numbers being down and the fact that you are dominating in the rebounding department? Pretty much what he's done for like the past few years here or whatever. Has he shown any concern about that with his individual game?
I mean, not really. Armando's a very unselfish guy. I mean, every once in a while he'll send me a text to stop stealing his rebound or something like that. But in general, no, he's just all about winning. I mean, he came back here, he's trying to win national championship.
Hubert likes to say, we're not just a North Carolina or Armando Baycott rebounding team, we're a North Carolina rebounding team. Should he amend that and say we're not just a Harrison Ingram rebounding team, we're a North Carolina rebounding team?
I think so, but that's up to him.
Harrison and Armando?
Just try to just do my job.
Harrison, you mentioned that you obviously watched a lot of UNC Duke games. Armando Baycott has played in quite a few of those. What kind of, I guess, if you remember, kind of stood out about some of those performances that he had in some of those games that you were watching?
I can't really speak to a specific performance he had, but I know that he's always one of those players that just shows up in the big game, and when the moment comes, I mean, he wants the ball, and he's always ready to go.
Kind of like a mainstay type deal.
Right, 100%. I feel like any game where, it's an ESPN game, UNC Duke or Kentucky, or you name the big schools, Armando's going to show up.
Speaking of ready to go, he is ready to go out in the hall, so maybe like 1 or 2 more for Harrison.
Was that the family group chat that your sister was getting in, or was that just like a one-on-one type thing when she was messing with you?
Well, she FaceTimed me and she was just smiling, and I was like, "Why are you smiling?" She was like, "You lost?" And I was like, "Oh my goodness!"
What a greeting! This was Wednesday then?
This was the night.
Yesterday?
The morning after we lost. So when did we play?
Tuesday.
Yesterday.
We're really good.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, Harrison.